A high-stakes poker pro is someone who has the skill, discipline, and a long-term profit-focused mindset. And then there are self-claimed pros. These are pretty much recreational players that have become a regular personality over the years with the era of poker shows like Hustler Casino Live and Poker at the Lodge. The usual trend with these self-claimed reg pros is that their winnings look like this. Let's take a look at how these reg pros monitor some of the pots they've played and why I'm calling them a reg pro instead of an actual one. Starting with Tesla. I don't think anyone can ever forget this hand.
I know. And all in! Oh my god. Terrace knows his man.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'm so
Tesla
serious.
wastes no time.
Terrace makes this call. It's over 600,000.
I call.
Makes the call. This is the second largest pot in the history of the Lodge live stream.
607. And we're all in on the flop.
620.
One time.
Max Payne. Max Payne, all right. Queen. Queen is coming. I feel it.
Needs a queen.
No straight, right? Nope. No straight. No straight, no clips. Okay.
Wow.
And next up on the menu is Dylan. Many think his playstyle is good, and I like him, but his live stream stats say the otherwise. And the best for last. It can't be a top 3 list without Mr. Airball himself. This historical poker live stream incident is something everyone definitely remembers.
One more.
Airball needs an ace or a 9, otherwise he is down $1 million.
Brick. A 5 will get him quartered. Finds the 9, so now they chop the second board, so he gets quartered.
All of these people somehow had the money from some other source, while there's someone who can actually afford to play on these stakes due to his passion, consistency, and documentation. A very distinct reg pro is this guy. Mariano fully committed to his poker journey by making a YouTube channel and uploading his games 5 years ago, going from 1-3 to casually playing 50, 100, 200 and documenting everything. He's currently performing better than 99.5% of everyone who appeared in Hustler Casino Live with 955 hours of gameplay. This game time also makes him the 6th in livestream appearances, showing his solid and consistent rise. His net winnings are a little north of $1.8 million, so it would only be fair if we gave him a lot of credit. In fact, he's my personal inspiration in creating poker YouTube content, so let's see how he plays his cards. In one of the first streams of 2025 Hustler Casino Live, Mariano's in the big blind with ace-10 off. PP raises to 400 and May 3-bets to 1.3. Mariano, thinking that the button 3-bet could be light and the big blind 4-bet would look strong, goes for a small raise to 3,800. This move does a lot. Because May is short stacked, this opens his door for May to go all in, which he would do with all the hands that are ahead of ace-10, which would then give the Mariano the option to fold, and May would fold all the hands that are like ace-jack, ace-10 or king-jack that could have reverse implied odds against Mariano. When May just calls, the hands he's going to have are things like lower pocket pairs, suited connectors, but May makes a mistake. He puts quarter of his chips into the pot with suited connectors, but they lose a lot of value when your stack is not deep enough. The board comes king queen 3 and Mariano bets small size. May immediately goes all in and Mariano starts calculating his odds. It definitely stinks that he went all in on a board that would definitely favor Mariano, and he finds the correct call because of how polarized this looks, and Mariano is right. I would want to hear his thoughts on this hand, but Mariano read May like a book and understood that ace high could be good or could have outs against lower pairs or draws. They run it twice and Mariano wins both, taking away a $29,000 pot. Next hand, Mariano looks at queen 3 off in the undergun straddle. Action limps around and we go to a small pot. Flop comes queen 9-10 with his open ender. Brown Bala takes the lead and bets 200. Mariano wastes no time and raises his top pair for value, and L gets out of the way. Brown Bala now 3-bets to 3,200, which obviously looks very weird, but it would make sense for him to do that with either high equity hands that are vulnerable or hands like this where he could apply pressure to hands like exactly what Mariano has. Mariano understands that with how deep they are, a 3-bet doesn't commit too much of his stack and he could be good on some runouts, or he can go to showdown cheaply, so he calls. The turn is the ace of diamonds. Given the pre-flop action, this shouldn't change the fact that Mariano will have the best hand if he had it on the previous street. Brown Bala continues to tell the story that he has a monster and bets 5,500. Mariano, knowing that the ace rarely changes anything, calls. The river pairs the board with an ace. This is probably one of the better cards in the deck for Mariano because draws miss except King Jack, which was already a straight on the flop. However, King Jack would probably raise pre-flop, so Brown Bala's value hands are like pocket 10s, queens, queen 10, queen 9, or 10-9. Now, Brown Bala goes all in with Jack High. Because of all the reasons we mentioned, Mariano can't really find the reason to fold his pair of queens and makes the correct call, collecting a $68,000 pot. Before we go into the next hand, comment down below what you think about Mariano. Let's make the goal of this video to get a comment from the man himself, and I'd appreciate if you tag him down there as I admire how good he is for the poker community. Shout out to his rock band Dear Delta, as well as I've become a consistent listener and I appreciate the music a lot. Next hand, Mariano wakes up with kings while Brown Bala has queens. It's your usual cooler when the money goes all in pre-flop and Mariano stacks Brown Bala again for a $38,000 pot. In this next notable hand, Brown Bala raises to 300 with ace-6, and Mariano 3-bets to a grand. PP comes in for a 4-bet to 3,500, and at this point, they are $60,000 deep. So call is just fine here with Mariano suited connectors, and flop comes deuce king 8 two-tone. PP sizes down to 2,500, with a pair in his hand, Mariano starts with a call. The turn comes the ace of diamonds, but PP checks on the turn. This is very interesting as ace king high try board would favor the 4-better a lot and Mariano would check back a lot of his 10s, jacks, heart draws to realize equity when checked to. So I think PP has to bet here at full frequency, knowing that he can eliminate some of Mariano's equity. The river comes a jack and PP checks again. When PP checks, this gives the Mariano the green light because as the 4-better, PP checking on the turn and river is extremely weak, so Mariano doesn't even have to use a big sizing to get PP's air folded. PP could arrive here with a hand like queen jack, 10s, 9s, suited connectors that got out of line, and to get these folded, you really don't need a big size. Mariano goes for a 1/3 pot bet, and PP folds. I don't like how PP played his hand at all, and I believe he should have been firing on the turn and maybe slowed down the river. But props to Mariano for not checking back, knowing that he can get better hands to fold by firing on this run out. It's actually time for me to do my shameless plug where I need you to go and subscribe to my tiny YouTube channel so I can keep making these videos because 99% of all my viewers are not subscribed. Mariano raises ace-10 of diamonds from the hijack to 300. L calls and we go to a flop heads up of 6-6. L checks and Mariano down bets as he would do with all of his holdings on a low paired disconnected board. There's a flush available and he immediately gets raised to 1.300, which he calls. Facing this raise on this board is very polarizing, so we're looking for L to have a 6 or a flush draw here. However, we see that L did this move with a deuce, but the downside of having a deuce here is on a lot of runouts, he's not going to feel good about how good this hand turns out to be. The turn completes the flush, and funny enough, I think both players think the other player got there, and L tries to test this theory by betting pot. The question is, if L actually had a flush, would he ever choose a sizing? The answer is most likely no. On flush completing turns with a flush, you almost want to pick a small sizing to get your opponent to fold their one pair type of holdings and raise their sets and trips to get max value from the flush. Mariano, knowing this, puts in the call. The river's an 8, effectively changing nothing. L now bets 5,000 and Mariano calls? I'm not sure what was the thought process here, but seeing him call on the turn, I thought Mariano was going for a raise on the river, thinking the ace high is never good. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Mariano put him on a worse high card and was just barreling randomly. I can't even put the piece of the puzzle as Mariano did, but if you know the justification of this call, leave it in the comments. This last hand is not a big pot, but watching Mariano monitor this was absolutely phenomenal. Our heroes in this straddle was 6-9, and he calls, closing the action when L raises jack 9 of diamonds to 500. We go to a flop of 10-7-8 rainbow, and oh no, both players flop a straight, and there are no flush draws available. Mariano checks, L bets 400. In a very standard fashion, Mariano goes for a check raise to 1800 as very standard play. L just calls. The turn is the 8 of diamonds, pairing the board and putting a flush draw out there. This is arguably the best card for Mariano, as he can now mitigate the losses somehow against a better hand. Mariano checks and L checks back. I mean, this is very interesting and amazing by Mariano that he checks, thinking that all the hands that L is calling are raised with are either way ahead or way behind. A hand like aces or kings that L might have is super behind, while L's exact holdings or potential sets that he might have is super ahead, or any of the flushes. River pairs the board as 8 of clubs rolls on the river. Many low stake players can make the mistake of betting small here for value from a ace high type of hand, but as played, Mariano has no hands that he has beats, and he goes check check and the hero loses the minimum. I just wonder if Mariano checked the turn to go for a double check raise or for some other reason, but L's check back on the turn is very questionable. That's going to wrap up this session, as Mariano ends up winning $41,000, 410 big blinds in this 5-hour stream. As always, stay safe and check raise your rivers.